It is finished. Those are the last words that Jesus said before dying on the cross. As we heard at the celebration of the Lord's Passion last night on Good Friday. And yet, it wasn't finished, in a sense. If you happen to be able to come to that celebration last night, you'd know that when we heard that he breathed his last, he handed over his spirit and died, we knelt down in silent prayer for a few moments. And then we got back up and we heard quite a bit more to the story, even just in that chapter 19 of John's Gospel. And so the story didn't end with his death. The gospel didn't end with his death. And nor did Jesus' work finish with his death. Immediately after he died, we can see already how he's still pouring out his love on the whole world. When the soldier pierced Jesus' side with his spear, we heard that immediately blood and water flowed out. It's this strange paradox of Jesus's body was really dead, and he looked to all the world like a complete failure, like that was it. It was finished. No more. He'll be silent now. And yet it's from this dead body that the church was born. The church received her first life from this blood and water that he poured out to give life to his church. And that church would not be left alone either. She would not be left without her bridegroom, without Christ, because she would not be left to think that death would simply be the end for her too, because Jesus rose from the dead, showing his wounds, those wounds, like trophies of victory to his church, and saying, peace be with you. But first, he went to the end, even to death itself, and even to descend to the dead and to remain there on this Holy Saturday, to bring us back to God, to reconcile us with God, even those who had already died, even those to whom he went on this day, this day of silence in the tomb, that he wasn't finished, that he was still acting, that he was still working to reconcile his people with God, his Father. Jesus is the mediator between God the Father and us. As the letter to the Hebrews calls him, he's the great high priest. And in this moment of his death, his priestly consecration was finished. His perfect sacrifice, his one perfect sacrifice of himself, was finished. And now and forever, everything we need to be reconciled to God, to be brought into right relationship, into union with God, is found in him, in this sacrifice of his body on the cross. And yet, when we look upon him whom we have pierced, when we look upon him whom we have pierced by our sins that led him to the cross, do we see a failure like the world sees? Do we feel even too embarrassed to look at this man who was marred beyond human appearance? Is the wood of the cross a stumbling block for us, or is it the instrument of our salvation? Is this silence of Holy Saturday a silence of confusion, of fear, of absence? Or is it a silence of hope? Today, as we continue in these holy days, and we continue on this Holy Saturday, which is really this in-between, this silent time between death and resurrection. As we continue to pray and wait at Jesus' tomb, let's look upon him whom we have pierced. Let's look upon his cross and look upon this emptiness of our churches, where he's truly been taken away from us and he's given himself up to death for us. And let's find, even in what appears to the world a complete failure, what appears to the world like just the end of the story, what appears to the world as just this locus of death, let's find there the source of life, the source of our life. Yes, even for you, here and now, so many centuries later, because he's not finished with you yet. So as the letter to the Hebrews says, so let us confidently approach the throne of grace to receive mercy and find grace for timely help.